At the Hundred Flowers banquet, I intended to seduce the Minister of Rights. As I danced, my moves became increasingly inappropriate. But in a moment of clumsiness, I accidentally kicked the Regent into the pond. That night, the ruthless and feared Regent fell ill. A month later, he was deaf and appeared at the marriage banquet between me and the Minister of Rights. With great difficulty, I approached him and asked, "Your Highness, has your ear condition improved?"
What?
The Regent narrowed his eyes. "Are you saying that you want to marry me?" I was horrified. "No, no, no." "All right, I understand." He smirked, his words reluctantly uttered. "Then I will grant your wish."
1.
I am the daughter of the Prime Minister's family, and half a month ago, I fell ill with lovesickness. I couldn't even eat. My maid, Dongmei, tried to persuade me. "Miss, even if you die in this bed, the Minister of Rights won't spare you a glance." I sprang up from the bed. Then how do I get him to notice me? Die in his bed. A month ago, a new Minister of Rights was appointed to the court, named Song Hui. He was handsome, with red lips and white teeth, a truly captivating appearance. But his personality was too cold. When I first met him, I intentionally tripped and fell into his arms. To my surprise, he closed his eyes and pushed me away, saying, "Missy, please have some self-respect." With a bashful expression, I leaned closer to him and whispered, "What is self-respect? Mr. Song, please teach me." That day, I followed him all the way, and due to the slippery snow, he stumbled several times, until I saw my father, who was also heading to the palace. Only then did he escape my clutches. Since then, whenever Song Hui saw me from afar, he would run faster than a runaway horse. But I didn't see Mr. Song every day, and I fell ill with lovesickness. Dongmei placed a pastry in front of me. "Miss, eat something. If you get too thin, you won't be able to love anyone else." I sighed. "Dongmei, I'm serious. He's different.
2.
He's not like other men." That day, I asked Song Hui what self-respect meant. He actually took a paper umbrella and pushed me 3 feet away, his earlobe slightly reddening, but he remained calm and composed, saying, "Miss Yi, this is self-respect." He didn't care about my status as the Prime Minister's only daughter. He didn't care about my beauty. Dongmei interjected, "He doesn't care about you either." "I'm just trying to make him care about me," I grumbled, dividing a whole pastry into 8 pieces and eating it in one go. If only Song Hui were a pastry. I had just finished 1 piece, when Dongmei began measuring my waist with a soft ruler. "Miss, if your waist gets any bigger, it won't look good. Madam will punish us again." I lay on the bed, feeling downhearted. Others didn't understand why I always favored this bed. In reality, I was just so hungry that I couldn't stand up anymore. Since I was little, I've been the only legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's family. My parents had high expectations for me. Not only was I expected to master music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, I had to stand out like a crane among chickens. If I didn't do well in school, if I couldn't play the zither, if I couldn't write well, those things would be life-threatening. When I was young, I had a high fever that wouldn't subside, and I begged my mother, "Mother, I don't want to practice the zither anymore." Then, I was locked in the ancestral hall of the Prime Minister's house, reflecting on my behavior. My mother sat on a high chair, looking at me coldly. "You are meant to serve the emperor in the palace in the future. How can you be so lazy?" Since then, whenever I didn't feel well, I gritted my teeth and endured it because I knew every inch of my skin was tied to the future of the Prime Minister's family. But now, the emperor was nearly 40. I thought about the future, where I would have to live with the beauties of the harem, watching an old man, coaxing him to sleep, day after day. I couldn't help but shed tears. Others only knew me as the poised, dignified daughter of the Prime Minister, who had stunned everyone before marriage. What they didn't know was that I was gradually becoming perverse. I couldn't stand handsome men. If I saw one, I would fall for him. It was quite scary. And Song Hui was particularly unlucky. Every day, He was forced to accept the sweet, sentimental poems I wrote. His appearance even grew somewhat haggard.
3.
Dongmei couldn't stand my lovesickness. Miss, the regent has returned to the capital recently, she tempted. I hear he's handsome, tall, and mighty. His legs are longer than a lifespan. Having stepped over many lives, his legs must indeed be long. I promise you, once you see him, your lovesickness will be gone. Dongmei glanced at me. What a pity if you don't go take a look. Oh, I said, acting like I had kicked a bad habit. Let him feel pity then. I'm not foolish. What I love is a man, not trouble. The regent, named Nalanchi, was the emperor's younger brother. He had been raised by the emperor and was deeply favored. 10 years ago, during the crown prince's assassination, he had led a massacre, breaking the city gates and helping his brother seize the throne. Due to the bloodshed, he went to a temple to reflect. This man was terrifying, bloodthirsty. Not at all the gentle, elegant young man I liked. It's said that Nalanchi's return to the capital was forced by the emperor. He was already of marrying age, yet had no children, which made the emperor anxious. Since his return, all the noble ladies in the city were afraid to even step outside, fearing they might catch the regent's eye. Only I dared to take the risk and went out, intending to force an encounter with Song Hui along the road after court. 4. But Song Hui was overly self-respecting. As soon as I appeared, he stuttered. With a calm expression, he said, "Yi? Miss Yi, what? What a coincidence." Minister Song. I approached him. The snow is heavy, and I just happen to have an umbrella. We're heading the same way. He really was a gentle person, unwilling to even refuse me. After walking for a while, Song Hui suddenly stopped. "Miss Yi, you live in the east of the city, and I live in the west." I wiped the sweat off my forehead.
Oh,
I see. Then, Song Hui handed me the umbrella. "It's dangerous outside. Don't go out these days." He had someone send me back to the Prime Minister's house, but I was so angry I couldn't eat. What a blockhead. A month had passed, and he still didn't understand. Thinking about it, I felt a headache. Dongmei, seeing how much I had withered, became worried. "Miss, you really didn't fall for him, did you?" "No, this won't do. If you don't enter the palace, we'll all be doomed." Everyone knew that I was about to enter the palace. There was no way to avoid it, no matter how much I tried. Dongmei was afraid my disobedience would get us all in trouble. And as I lay in bed, still unwell, I sighed. "Mr. Song, it really makes me lose my appetite." Recently, I wasn't the only one losing my appetite. Even the current emperor was too.
5.
After the regent returned to the capital, the emperor gave him several delicate beauties as concubines. A few months later, the emperor looked at them and thought they were all pregnant. But when he got closer, he saw that the beauties were plump, with large hips and round waists, all shyly saying, "The regent likes women who are round and full. We've been trying hard to please him." Those full figures were indeed trying their best. Soon, everyone in the capital knew that the regent liked women who were plump, and the more so, the better. The emperor grew more and more displeased, his face turning green with anger. At this point, my father mentioned sending me to the palace, but the emperor shot him down so hard that his eyes turned black. The next day, the emperor ordered the officials to send their daughters to the 100 Flowers banquet, and if the regent took a liking to anyone, she would be sent straight to the bridal chamber. When the news spread, my mother went mad on the spot. "If anyone is going, let it be Ying Shui. What if the regent likes her?" My father nodded. "Lock her up and say she's sick." I overheard their plotting, and for the first time in 17 years, I learned to rebel. "Father, the regent likes plump beauties," I said weakly, clutching my tiny waist. Rather than commit treason, why not give the emperor face? Sure enough, with so many daughters claiming to be sick, the emperor said, "If they're sick, bring out their coffins and let them join the banquet." If the regent liked one, they could have a posthumous marriage. 6. The day of the banquet, I dressed like a peacock in full bloom. Winter May, disheartened, said, "Miss, this time, Did you fall for the regent? Embarrassed, I replied, No, I'm trying to seduce Song Hui. Actually, Song Hui is the emperor's nephew. As long as I stand out, I will surely catch the empress's eye. If she personally arranges a marriage between Song Hui and me, not even my father can stop this destined union. Wintermay realized, Miss, so your feelings for Song Hui are part of a plan. There's no such thing as love at first sight, I said softly. Remember, only step by step can you avoid old men.
7.
At the 100 Flowers banquet, the men and women were seated separately. As soon as I sat down, I heard the voices of noble ladies behind me, sounding as though they were gasping for air. I've been hungry for 7 days. I've been hungry for a month. I'm skin and bones, and the regent won't even look at me. Looking around, the usually elegant noble ladies were pale and thin, giving the impression of having lost everything. Among the crowd, Song Hui sat up straight. When he saw me gracefully sitting, his hand trembled. A noble lady next to me quietly asked, Is Song Minister looking at you?
Huh? Don't say that.
I blushed and said shyly, I'm at home every day studying the female virtues. I don't know what Mr. Song is thinking. Since childhood, my mother taught me to act like a noble daughter of the Prime Minister's family, like a gem waiting to be sold. The noble lady asked in confusion, Strange, aren't you the one who blocks Song Minister on the road every day? I really wanted to shut her up. Fortunately, soon no one was speaking, and the whole banquet became deathly silent. I felt a chill on my back. Looking up, I saw a man walking through the flowers. He was handsome, his eyes calm, with the air of an immortal who had accidentally fallen into the mortal world. Behind him, several noble ladies swallowed hard. Who is this young master? He's so handsome. Little sister, wake up. That's the regent. Who would have thought that Nayland Chi, with his innocent, serene face, would be so tall, making the young masters from noble families look small and weak. He passed by everyone and finally sat down across from me. I was restless. As the Prime Minister's daughter, I couldn't lose my composure, or I would be made to kneel in the family shrine when I returned. I didn't lower my head, and he didn't either. In the awkward silence, Nayland Chi raised his eyelids. You're staring at me. It's making me uncomfortable. I quickly lowered my head. I won't do it again. After lowering my head, I nervously twirled my fingers and, unknowingly, my eyes started wandering. Opposite me, under his snow-white robe, his wrist was wrapped in prayer beads. His wrists were strong, and the beads seemed ready to snap. A shiver ran down my spine. How terrifying. He could probably snap my waist with one hand. Nayland Chi pulled his hand back, his voice deep. You, keep your eyes to yourself. I bit my lip, shut my eyes tightly. Yes, I won't look anymore. Countless people cast pitying glances at me. Not far away, Song Hui's usual calm demeanor had disappeared. He was visibly upset. Miss Yi, let's switch seats, come over here. At that moment, I almost cried. Song Hui, after all, was the man I had chased for over a month. Finally, he was doing something.
8.
On the high stage, the Empress's face was filled with fear. Regent, Song Hui has broken the rules. I'll punish him myself. Changing seats is all, Nayland Chi said indifferently. I killed my father and brother. It's only natural that people fear me. At this point, everyone was on edge and dared not speak. The whole capital feared Nayland Chi because he was a ruthless beast. 10 years ago, on the night of the Crown Prince's coup, Nayland Chi killed his father, his siblings, his wet nurse, and the palace maids. The palace was drenched in blood, and it took half a month to clean it up. At the time, he was just a young man.
So terrifying.
But this beast, even though he wore the skin of a monk in a temple and did good deeds every day, didn't stop being a beast. The Empress gave a dry laugh and asked me to dance. I wanted to seduce Song Hui, so I danced passionately, during which I turned to look at him. This glance made me furious. Song Hui, in a trance, was staring at Nayland Chi. The latter had a hazy look in his eyes, even showing a smile that could make a beast lose its mind. He raised his cup and invited him for a drink. These two men, while I wasn't paying attention, had somehow gotten close. With a trend of dragon raising among the court, I thought Song Hui was self-respecting, but I never expected he would be so shameless. I danced up to Song Hui, full of anger. He looked up at me, and in that glance, there was a hint of affection. I was about to smile, but before I knew it, someone threw a wine cup to the ground. I missed my step and kicked the person across from Song Hui into the water. After the splash, someone gasped, "What just fell?" The Regent. The Regent fell into the water. The first one to jump into the lake was me. But it wasn't the Regent who fell into the lake. It was my head. If Nayland Shi died by morning, the Prime Minister's family would be found with several decapitated corpses, including mine. He was so heavy under the water. Nayland Shi half opened his eyes, dazed, looking at me as he drunkenly blew bubbles in the water. Before he could finish playing, I made up my mind, leaned over, and kissed him to give him air.
9.
I was locked in the ancestral hall by my father, holding a ruler, and he hit me repeatedly. "Ying Xue, stop with your clever little schemes. Do you think that by seducing someone you won't have to go to the palace?" The pain from the blows made me dizzy. I gritted my teeth, holding back my tears. "Father, have I been just a pawn for the past 10 years to enter the palace?" This was a question I had been holding in for over 10 years, but had never asked out loud. I was the legitimate daughter of the Yi family, yet I couldn't even fill my stomach and had endured countless hardships, all for the sake of a virtuous and talented label, just to enter the palace and become a concubine of the emperor. "If you enter the palace," my father smiled insincerely, "you'll naturally be my daughter. But if Nayland Shi asks about your crimes, don't blame me for being ruthless. I'll kill you with my own hands to appease his hatred." I returned to my room covered in injuries. Dongmei applied medicine on me, gently asking, "Miss, does it hurt?" My eyes were vacant. "No, it doesn't." I should have expected this, but hearing that I was just a pawn for the Yi family still pierced my heart. Why were my brothers allowed to act recklessly and get away with it, yet every time I ate a little more, I was punished by being locked in the ancestral hall to face the Yi family ancestors and repent? What did I do wrong? I didn't ask for much, just a simple husband, a quiet life, living in harmony. But these people wanted to lock me in a golden cage, to be admired and played with. It was rare to see me cry so much, but Dongmei hesitated before speaking. "Miss, I risked my life to secretly collect a letter for you." The writing on the envelope was elegant, still smelling faintly of ink. It was just like Song Hui, always self-restrained, yet sending private letters and doing these secretive things. I took the letter and burned it on the fire. "Since you risked your life for it, don't do it again next time." Dongmei was shocked. "Miss, this is a letter from Song Shilang. Don't you like him?" I sighed weakly. "I don't love him anymore. On to the next one." I couldn't love anyone anymore. I was just a pawn destined for the palace.
10.
A few days later, Nayland Shi fell ill. My eyelids twitched. "What happened?" Dongmei hesitated. "There's a rumor that you kicked him into the water, causing him to fall ill." I was terrified. "Is it serious?" "He might not make it," Dongmei cried. "He's been bedridden for days, and nothing can cure him." Sure enough, when I heard Nayland Shi had been ill for a few days, the rumors spread that he had done so many evil deeds, and I had been acting on behalf of heaven. My father came to apologize, but was repeatedly chased away by the servants. For the past few days, even my father's concubines were avoiding him, fearing being blamed. I quickly held my head. My father wouldn't really kill me and present my head to Nayland Shi as an apology, would he? There's a possibility. Dongmei was also scared. "Miss, should we go and try to appease the regent so he'll forgive us?" That made sense. I was about to leave when I took a step back. What if he sees me and I can't help but grab a knife to kill me? Dongmei was also in a panic. I sat at the dressing table, pointed to my face, and said, "Make me look like someone he can't bear to kill." Dongmei. 11. In front of the regent's mansion, Dongmei was sweating nervously. My lady is the legitimate daughter of the Yi family, here to visit the regent. Please inform him. The two guards at the door of the regent's mansion were either deaf or blind. After several tries, the guards finally understood. He shouted joyfully into the mansion, "It's the legitimate daughter of the Yi family who's in love with the regent and has come to visit him. Quickly inform the regent." Inside, numerous voices responded, "Yes, at once. This will surely amuse the master." Dongmei was so angry she almost cried. "Wait, we just said." The guard reassured her, "I know you're anxious, but please don't rush." I was sitting in the soft palanquin, trembling at the sound of those words. The servant came out with the message. "The Lord said he's not dead, and you don't need to visit." He paused. "The Lord also said if you truly want to visit, the gates of the mansion won't stop you."
Ah.
A strong desire to survive made me behave like a sycophant. I got out of the palanquin, looked at the red gates, and stepped into the mansion. How can I not be sincere? Nayland Shi was truly sick. As the beaded curtain swayed, he lay upright on the sickbed, his face pale as snow, lips devoid of color. My heart raced. That one kick from that day had made him this sick. I was already thinking of how to argue my way out of this to clear myself. A cold voice suddenly came from behind the curtain. "If you came to check whether I sleep peacefully, then you can leave." I softly said, "I've been worried about the regent's health every day. I don't know if you're better now." He indifferently replied, "Not better." I quickly knelt. "It's all my fault for being reckless that day. It was an unintended action. Please don't blame me, Your Highness." He coldly said, "If I don't blame you, who should I blame?" I gritted my teeth and ordered someone to bring in a chest full of jewels and jade, worth thousands of gold. I have nothing but these common items as a small token of my apology. Sure enough, the man lying there, resting, propped up his head with one hand. He seemed interested. It was well known that although the regent held some military power, the emperor never treated him as an outsider. Despite his many achievements, he had never been rewarded. He only received his monthly salary from the court. He always rewarded his subordinates, which left him poor. I, on the other hand, was different. The Yi family was an ancient and wealthy family with considerable savings. Since I was young, my mother had spent a lot of money raising me, fearing that once I entered the palace, other concubines would mock me for not having seen the world. I had money. He happened to be lacking money. Thinking this, I felt a bit more confident. To my surprise, Nayland Shi sneered. "I don't want it." He didn't want it. I was so angry that I felt suffocated, but I softened my tone. "Although my apology is modest, it's all the dowry I've saved for myself over the years. I thought if I gave everything, it would make you accept it." I wiped away a fake tear as I spoke. After I finished crying, Nayland Shi smiled slightly, reluctantly saying, "Since that's the case, I'll accept it." With a wave of his hand, he ordered the servants to take all my dowry away. I sighed with relief. Your Highness forgives me, so I won't disturb your rest. Dongmei, let's go. Just as I was feeling relieved, from behind the beaded curtain, a pair of dark eyes revealed the malice of the world. He said, "Wait, who said I've forgiven you?"
12.
I lived for 17 years. It was the first time I encountered shamelessness. After taking all my family's belongings, he locked all the walkable gates of the royal residence. My face turned pale. What? What do you want?" A rumbling sound from my stomach echoed at the wrong moment. Behind the heavy beaded curtain, the man's expression was as cold as water. "Eat your meal, then kneel and think carefully about what I need." One sentence, and I had no room to refuse. The maidservants brought out more than 10 dishes. "Miss, please eat quickly, so you can be ready to answer for your actions afterward." Next to me, a chubby white cat was licking the air because it was too fat to reach its fur. The maidservant smiled kindly. "This is the prince's beloved pet, named Snow Mud." The prince instructed that it keep you company during your meal. Should I compliment him? He's actually quite considerate. The maidservant set the dishes in front of me. The prince said, "Miss, you are too thin. You may eat as much as you wish." Faced with such a spread, I was defeated. After the meal, Winter Plum could not hold back her tears. "Miss, eating to your fill is so nice. I want to be a maid at the Regent's residence." I sighed. "You're hopeless." Don't talk about Winter Plum. I also wanted to serve under Nalan Chi. The prevailing trend in the court was to admire slender women. Every young lady from a noble family was as fragile as a willow in the wind, and even the personal maidservants had to have thin waists to avoid embarrassing their masters. But at the regent's residence, the maids had no such restraint. They looked strong, as if the wind could never blow them down. Too bad Winter Plum had to suffer with me, hungry every day. Perhaps because she had eaten her fill, when I knelt again behind the beaded curtain, my anger had diminished by half. I started to wonder what Nalan Chi actually wanted. He was frail now. A servant was feeding him medicine, but the servant had eye problems and kept mistaking his nose for his mouth, force-feeding him medicine, while he refused to swallow. In a flash, I rushed up and snatched the bowl from the servant's hand. "Prince, let me do it. It's better to be proactive." 13. While gently feeding him medicine, I tried to calm him with words. "Prince, your illness will get better in a few days. You don't need to overexert yourself. When will this vengeance end?" Suddenly, Nalan Chi coughed, and a mouthful of blood came out. The blood was so much. He asked, "What should I do now?" My heart raced. The way he looked, it seemed his life wasn't long. He closed his eyes again and lay back on the bed. "Tomorrow, continue to serve me?" I hesitated. "Prince, it's improper for a single man and woman to be alone in the same room. It would not look good if people found out."
But he didn't buy it.
"Ying Xue, if you can secretly meet with Song Huai," Nalan Chi's gaze darkened, "you naturally have a way to hide things from the world and come to me." At that moment, I was speechless. Indeed, one can't be too capable. When I stepped out of the royal residence, a guard blocked my path. "Miss, it's better you don't leave through the main gate. It would hurt the prince's reputation." "When will these sneaky days end?" Winter Plum rolled her eyes. "Huh. Your royal residence is so noble, yet all your people are either deaf or blind." "We indeed don't have normal people in our household," the guard smiled kindly. "Everyone is born with an ailment, but luckily we met the regent, or we wouldn't have survived. Miss Yi, our prince is so good to us. You'll understand in time." 14. Several days passed, and rumors spread that the daughter of the Xiang family had been secretly meeting with the regent. Finally, my mother became concerned. She even had someone measure my waist and sharply said, "In just a few days, your waist has grown an inch. You haven't been hiding any shameful secrets from me, have you?" Hearing this, it was obvious she was hinting if I was pregnant. My heart pounded. "I haven't, Mother. I've just been eating a lot recently." But my mother didn't believe me. Instead, she had a maid strip me bare and check my virginity, completely disregarding my tears of humiliation. Finally, she sighed in relief. "Go downstairs, don't overeat again. Go and accept your punishment from the wet nurse." Her words were cold as ice. Although I had heard such things countless times, I still hoped that one day she would feel sorry for me and let me eat more. "Mother." I finally closed my mouth. "I'll eat less." My mother smiled lovingly. "That's better. The emperor likes thin waists, but it's hard on you." She knew I suffered, but for the emperor's insignificant preference, she had willingly let me suffer for more than 10 years. Suddenly, I wanted to tear apart the peaceful facade they had built. I suddenly wanted them to know that I was a living, breathing person. I didn't want to do things I didn't wish to do. 15. I heard that His Majesty dotes on Nalan Chi and grants him any request. Over the past half-month, Nalan Chi hasn't been as terrifying as the rumors say. Instead of being moody, he feels more like a statue of Buddha placed on a high platform, distant and uninterested in anything. One day, I took the excuse of visiting him and boldly entered the Regent's palace in the Xianfu family's sedan chair. Nayland Shi lay in bed, resting with his eyes closed. The attendants tried to stop me, but I pushed through and kissed him hard, catching him off guard. Some things, once started, were understood without words. Finally, Nayland Shi opened his eyes, calm and indifferent. Why all the sudden attention? What is it you want from me? I hesitated, unable to utter a word for a long while. You won't speak, Nayland Shi said coldly. Then how can I give you an answer? I finally said, marry me. The words felt like a stone thrown into a lake, stirring ripples in his eyes, but he closed them again, hiding his expression. I asked again, will you marry me? He spoke finally, no. The two words stung me. If he wouldn't marry me, had he been toying with me all this time just for amusement? I turned away, the humiliation lingering in my chest, and before I left, I couldn't help but mutter, Nayland Shi, you're despicable. A hand grabbed me and pulled me back. He seemed flustered. You don't like me, Nayland Shi said with a calm voice. That's why I won't marry you. That sentence stopped me in my tracks, almost making me stumble. I had only been with him for 10 days. For the first 5 days, I worried that he might die and bring doom to the Xianfu family. For the last 5 days, I feared someone might notice and my movements became sneaky. Besides, I wasn't the type to fall for anyone, so how could I like him? Fortunately, I stayed calm. I stepped closer and boldly touched his waist, feeling the tension in his muscles as they stiffened like stone. I teased, half suspicious. Nayland Shi, you like me, don't you? He didn't respond, his expression calm, though his eyes betrayed a hint of embarrassment. I was shocked and embarrassed. You really do like me? Nayland Shi met my gaze, his body trembling slightly, but his words were cold as ice. If you have nothing else, you can go rest now. I didn't know why, but I wasn't afraid of him anymore. In fact, I felt like teasing him and making him blush.
16.
At the 100 Flowers banquet, I felt uncomfortable when our eyes met. It wasn't just because of his bad reputation, but because there was a deep possessiveness hidden behind his dark eyes. That incident with the lake was strange. I had barely kicked him, yet he fell into the lake. The rumors about the sickness he caught from the fall soon spread, and later, I voluntarily walked into his trap. It felt like a ploy to lure me in. When I came to the palace, I noticed the long-abandoned estate had been filled with fake mountains, ponds, and flowers, and even had a swing set up. The attendants told me it was for my enjoyment. Nayland Shi had placed many rare treasures in his room. These jewels, though untouched by him, seemed to catch my interest, and I could play with them for hours. After several occasions, I started to sense what he was thinking. But Dong Mei said, we're sneaking around. Don't even mention liking each other. I find it insulting. Indeed, this situation was ridiculous. Lately, my mother had been pressuring me, and I decided to confront Nayland Shi. As expected, he didn't deny anything. The person before me had never been so quiet. Nayland Shi, I said firmly, will you marry me? If he liked me, that was enough. I would be his good wife. But his brow didn't show any happiness, and he turned his gaze away. You should go back now. I held back my feelings and left the palace. Miss, this man is so strange. Dong Mei complained. He likes you, but he won't marry you. I froze for a moment. No, they're not strange. That sentence reminded me of my brothers back home. They would sweet-talk other girls, saying they liked them, but once the girls asked when they would marry them, they ran faster than anyone else. In their hearts, those girls were only fit to be concubines, while marrying a wife was a serious matter. Thinking about it, I became surprisingly calm. When I first found out Nayland Shi liked me, I was secretly pleased. But now, looking at it, who was the fool like me? I dared to force him to marry me. Who was I to demand such a thing? 17. On my way back to the Xianfu family, my sedan was stopped. Dong Mei whispered, Miss, we're in big trouble. I opened the sedan curtain and was surprised to see Song Hui. In the half-month since we last met, He had lost weight, but still radiated the gentle and jade-like aura. "Miss Yi, how have you been?" Song Hui smiled faintly. "Did you read the letter?" I replied coldly. "I didn't read it. I threw it away." Song Hui's smile stiffened slightly. "I see." I lowered the curtain again. "Please move aside, Mr. Song." But he didn't move. I heard him say, "The letter said I am willing to plead with my aunt to grant us marriage. I'm just wondering what Miss Yi thinks." I regretted it. Such a pure boy. I shouldn't have used him. Originally, I was so angry at Nailan Chi that I couldn't eat, but now seeing Song Hui, I felt more self-disgust. I couldn't keep making mistakes. I said seriously, "Song Hui, when I first approached you, my intentions were not pure." "Miss Yi, I knew from the beginning," Song Hui said, his eyes gentle. "You didn't want to enter the palace, but you saw my family status and wanted to use me to escape." So he had always been aware. "Miss Yi, there's nothing wrong with choosing a good tree to rest on." I maintained my composure. "Song Hui, I don't like you." The words made his expression stiffen and he asked, "Then, do you like someone else?" I laughed. "Mr. Song, is it appropriate for you to ask me such a question?" The dignified image of a noble daughter occasionally served its purpose, allowing me to avoid any uncomfortable questions. Song Hui bowed and stepped aside, allowing my sedan to pass. "If Miss Yi doesn't wish to answer, I'll take it as if nothing happened." The sedan moved on. At that moment, I decided that if I ever entered the palace, I would make sure to whisper in the emperor's ear, helping him rise in rank. 18. I spent my days in the ancestral hall, reciting scriptures and praying for blessings. One day, Dongmei appeared, her face full of joy. "Miss, the regent has received his retribution." I buried my head in copying scriptures. In fact, I was drawing turtles. On each turtle shell, there was a character. When put together, it spelled Na, Lan, Chi. In front of my ancestors, I cursed him to be a turtle in his next life. I put away the turtle drawings. "What happened to him?" Dongmei smiled. "His condition worsened recently, and he's gone deaf." I replied absent-mindedly. "Oh." Dongmei looked at me strangely. "Miss, you seem a bit off." "What's off?" "You have something on your mind." Naturally. I tore up the paper with the turtle drawings. Who wouldn't have something on their mind after encountering a turtle? Outside the hall, my mother passed by with a group of maidservants. I quickly hid the messy paper and put on a serious face, pretending to copy scriptures. My mother stared at me, sending a chill down my spine. After a long silence, she asked suspiciously, "Ingxue, you haven't caused any trouble recently, have you?" I trembled. "No, daughter hasn't caused any trouble. Today, the Empress has invited me to bring you to the palace." My mother sized me up. "You may have the chance to meet the Emperor. Take advantage of it." A cold feeling spread over my head. What I didn't want to happen came far too quickly. Okay. 19. The day we entered the palace, I hadn't eaten all day because my mother said it would help me become slimmer. The banquet felt more like a family gathering. The Emperor and Empress sat in the highest seats. When I sat down, I saw Song Hui.
He was looking at me.
I sat obediently beside my mother, listening to the adults exchange pleasantries. The Empress's gaze fell on me. "I've heard that Ingxue is known for her beauty and virtue, a young lady with a good reputation." My mother smiled. "She's just a wild girl." The Empress also smiled and waved her hand. "I have a nephew named Song Hui, who is wise and upright." At these words, my mother's face turned pale, and she became uneasy. I pressed my lips together. Sure enough, the Empress bestowed a marriage between me and Song Hui. I stood up but was suddenly pushed back down. My mother's face was troubled as she looked toward the Emperor. Actually, Ingxue already has someone she admires. Everyone's face shifted, including mine. My mother had lost her mind. I feared she would reveal that I admired the Emperor. I immediately stepped forward and went on stage. "Thank you, Your Majesty, for your gracious decree. I am deeply grateful." But I hadn't eaten all day, and my head was spinning. As I was walking about to fall, someone caught me by the waist. The faint scent of bitter medicine made me slightly more awake. I looked up and saw the cold, elegant face of Na Lan Chi. I pushed him away awkwardly. Thank you. What? Na Lan Chi narrowed his eyes. Do you want to marry me? Everyone around us looked even more confused. No one was unaware that recently, the Regent had been pushed into the water and had fallen ill, becoming deaf. I suddenly snapped out of it. I didn't say. Good, I understand. He smirked, his voice grudging. Then I will do as you wish. Na Lan Chi took my hand and led me to kneel. Emperor, we love each other. I cannot live without her. Song Huai stood in the distance, his face as pale as death, while the Empress's face wasn't any better. But no one dared to challenge Na Lan Chi. He was just a deaf man now, and if someone told him the truth, he might just embarrass himself and go into a fit. The emperor hesitated, but didn't call it out. I too believe that Ingxue is suitable. Bring me the pen. I will personally grant you the marriage. This turn of events was truly unexpected. I knelt, barely daring to breathe, when a hand offered me a peach blossom cake.
Eat.
Na Lan Chi's tone was gentle. I'll block you so others can't see. I remained silent. Did he hear, though? People were whispering, speculating that the feeding scene meant a little heir might arrive by next spring.
20.
At the wedding banquet, everyone only remembered how the suddenly appearing regent took the prime minister's daughter, and my parents seemed to age overnight. The wedding was set for the 15th of next month. Originally, the astrologers said the next auspicious date would be the 15th of June. But the regent was deaf, and he misheard it as the 15th of next month. Was he doing this on purpose? Dongmei muttered angrily. He's afraid he won't live until June 15th. In truth, I didn't tell Dongmei. Na Lan Chi wasn't sick, he was poisoned. On the day of the marriage decree, he had asked me, if I die unexpectedly one day, will you still marry me? I wrote on a piece of paper, if you die, who will inherit the family property? He turned pale. You. I wrote, I'll marry you. I didn't tell him my dowry was more than his bride price. 21. On the wedding day, my mother sent me off. Eat more. The regent likes them plump. She had never won my father's favor in her life, except when it came to preparing me to enter the palace as a concubine. My father would occasionally show some gratitude. No wonder she was so relentless. I patted her hand. Mother, I'm leaving. You take care. In the corner, I saw Song Huai, but he quickly disappeared into the crowd. That night, while checking the wedding gifts, I found that the Song family had sent a statue of the Guanyin who grants children. Song Huai was clever and knew this was the only thing Na Lan Chi wouldn't throw away. Na Lan Chi saw me staring at it for a long time and asked, who sent this? I don't know. Just remember it. I wrote it down carefully in my book. Next time, if his family has a celebration, we'll return the favor. Counting wedding gifts was supposed to be the butler's job, but I liked opening the packages. I had to touch all the silk, satin, and jewelry tonight before locking them away in the warehouse. Na Lan Chi brushed against my waist. The wedding candles are almost burnt out. It's time to rest. Wait. I was a bit nervous. I still have 80 gifts left to open, but I forgot he couldn't hear. In the chaos, I was kissed and carried to the bed, where the night became warm under the red candles. The end. Extra chapter. 1 on the night of the wedding. He made me call him husband over and over. My face turned red with embarrassment as I pushed him away. You can't hear me. Stop playing around. Na Lan Chi replied softly. Can't hear what? It turns out he could hear.
2.
6 months later, Na Lan Chi was preparing to return to his fief. I looked at him with deep affection. I don't want to go. All right, Na Lan Chi decided immediately. Then we'll wait another 6 months, but this place isn't safe. How could my hometown not be safe? A month later, I was dragged into the palace. The emperor sat across from me, confining me, and that day, I saw Na Lan Chi walking into the palace with a stern face. He spoke in a deep voice, Let go of my wife and child, and I'll do anything you want. I immediately forgot to cry. It turns out, this was the reason Nanlon Shi didn't want to marry me before. The emperor had always feared him. The idea of marrying him off and making him have children was just a way to create more weaknesses for him, to have more leverage. He had been poisoned before, and the culprit was the emperor. The emperor demanded, "I want you to give up your military power and your elite troops." This condition made me want to bite my tongue and end my life. What the emperor was asking wasn't just military power and troops, but Nanlon Shi's life, the very armor he used to protect me. This emperor was a man who had killed my father and older brother 10 years ago, framing his younger brother for the crimes to satisfy his own desires. This wasn't even human. Nanlon Shi gave me a meaningful look. "Emperor, Inga will stay with you for now. I'll need 2 days to think this over." He stood just a foot away from me. "Don't be afraid. I'll definitely get you out." I nodded. "Okay." The emperor agreed. 2 days later, in the dead of night, Nanlon Shi led troops into the palace, bloodily rescuing me and returning to his fief overnight. I cried in sorrow. If I had known, I wouldn't have married you. He was better off alone. Now, with me and the child in my womb, everything was being held back at every turn. But instead, he laughed. "Having a weakness isn't so bad. If I die, someone will cry for me." 3. When Nanlon Shi returned to the capital, he had only one goal. He wanted to bring someone back to his fief. But the little girl from 10 years ago, the one who said she would marry no one but him, had long forgotten him and already chosen another husband. It was laughable. On the night of the succession struggle 10 years ago, he had witnessed his brother kill all their relatives, and he took the blame and was called a beast. That little girl had held his hand and said, "Brother, you saved me. You're a good person. Go tell everyone you're not a beast." "Brother, you're too scared to say it. I'll say it for you." These things made me cry to death. I puffy-eyed asked, "Who is she?" "I need to thank her personally." Nanlon Shi asked. "Thank her for what?" "Thank her for forgetting about you." I put on a stern face. "I know all the noble ladies in the capital. Who is she?" The jealousy pot tipped over. He smiled. "When I just returned to the capital, she worked so hard to seduce people, twisting her waist happily." Little flirt. I smiled even more creepily. "And then," Nanlon Shi said, "so, I seduced the man she wanted to seduce." So familiar. "Ing Shui, it's you." Nanlon Shi's eyes were indifferent. "You forgot about me." Suddenly, it all came back to me. That year, when my father took my mother and me to the palace for a banquet, a palace coup happened. He and my mother each ran off, and I was left in the bloody palace. I thought I was going to be killed too. But a big brother wearing silver armor saved me. He told me, "Forget everything that happened tonight, live on." So, I buried this secret in my heart for a long time and eventually forgot it. I smiled secretly. "It's you." At that time, I was just saying it casually. That night at the palace banquet, I told several young masters that I wanted to marry him. Only you remembered. Nanlon Shi's face turned slightly awkward. "Back then, who else did you say that to?" It turns out jealousy doesn't disappear, it just shifts from one person to another.
4.
That spring, the little lord was 3 years old. Chubby. In a court where everyone was thin, he was rejected by the girl he liked. He refused to eat. His mother coaxed him. "Tang Tang isn't fat. He just is baby fat. But they say I'm fat to death." The little lord was angry. "But if I get any thinner, I won't even be able to walk." His mother smiled secretly. Mom, am I really fat?" the little lord asked, confused. His mother thought carefully. "Those who like you would never say you're fat. They would only say, 'You're so cute.' One day, you'll meet someone who sees the best in you, and you won't need to force yourself for anyone." End of extra chapter.